Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Gulfstream Park here on Saturday. It is the 25th of January, 2025. It's Pegasus Day from Gulfstream, and I'm going to look at the Pegasus and all the other stakes races on the program. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kid 5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and I mean it around the world. Let's look at the stakes action today from Gulfstream. We're going to be basically looking at all the stakes races, races 5, and then races 7 through 13. So a smorgasbord of races to look at. Let's get to it right now. The fifth race from Gulfstream. It is the Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint. It's going for a $165,000 purse, races for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field here of 15 horses entered, but only 12 could go to the turf course, the distance of around 1,000 meters or 5 furlongs on the Gulfstream Park turf course. Rails are out 66 feet, which is the outer portion of the Gulfstream Park lawn. Top selection here. I'm going to go with the 6 horse, No Nay Hudson. I'm going to go 6'9", 12-3 in the superfecta. 6'9", 12-3 super. Top selection 6 horse, No Nay Hudson. This 5-year-old gun by No Nay Never. Wesley Ward trains. Junior Alvarado picks up the mount. They ran the horse most recently on the 25th of October at Keeneland. 5.5 in allowance race for 100,000. And he finished second by 2.5 lengths that day. And he was with them early on. He had the, good tracking trip. He just couldn't get there late. The winner just had the jump on him, but he got around the race course well. And then come back to Gulfstream where he ran a very good race last December. I think he could find a trip to win. He ran 2 back in the Woodford at Keeneland, 5.5 on the 5th of October, and he finished 10th by 4.25 lengths that day and had a very troubled trip. He was behind horses, had to check a few times, and he just couldn't get out late. And, it just was a weird race that wasn't in his favor that day. And the Green Flash handicap at Del Mar over 5 back in August. He finished third by 3/4 length. He stalked, he had the lead, and then he kept lugging in when he found the gap in the lane. That's what cost him the victory. What can you do? Just couldn't keep the straight course that cost him. And then on the Melon at Saratoga going 5.5 and optional 80. First start off the bench, finished 5th by a length that day. He didn't get out of the gate so clearly. He was a little bit wide, and he desperately needed the race off the bench. But he ran here last December going 5 and op 6-2, where he won by 1.25 lengths, and from a tracking trip, he really took off clear. This turf course going 5 definitely plays towards front-running horses like he is. Coming here today, I think he could win. I think the 9-horse No Balls for E.T. Baird and Larry Ravelli could win also. Source is Brewer's Cup winner, winning Brewer's Cup Turf Sprint at San Antonio going 5 in the autumn of 23, where he won by a neck from a tracking trip. He really came home clear on the rail. Very good run. Since then, he's only won once since that Brewer's Cup race. I came last time out on the Kennedy Road at Woodbine on the Tapeta going 6, where he won by 3/4 length from a tracking trip. He really took around good that day, setting some fast fractions. A 100 buyer, finally back to triple digits since that Brewer's Cup. If you look at some of his races this past summer and fall, he just was behind the A ball. They tried getting him in some races, and he just kept getting scratched out of them or off the turf in some of the races. And it just took him a little bit of time to get going, but he showed potential last time out. Training well at Turfway. I'm giving him a shot here at 72 on the multi-race ticket. But to recount my selections for the 5th from Gulfstream, it's the Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint. We're going to go take the 6-horse, No Nate Hudson. Give kudos to the 9-horse No Balls. 6'9", 12-3 super, 6'9 in the multi-race. Let's head over to race number 7 now. The 7th race from Gulfstream. It is the La Prevoyante Stakes. It's going for a purse of $165,000 for this Grade 3 event. Race for fillies, mayors, 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field here, an oversubscribed field of 13 horses entered. Only 12 could go 2,400 meters or a mile and a half on the turf course. Rails are down, so this is going to be run on the inner portion of the turf course, so just keep that in mind. With the 4-horse here, La Mahina as a top selection. 4-5-2-3 for me in the superfecta. 4-5-2-3 super. Top selection for La Mahina. The 6-year-old gun by Al Workhart here. Christophe Clement trains. Dylan Davis, who's just come down to South Florida in the last 3 or 4 weeks, showing good, race riding here in South Florida. Good for him. A great 24 campaign coming into 25. It's good that he's keeping the momentum going. Hopefully he can get that coveted Derby ride this year for him. That's what he's down here for. But La Mahina, he ran most recently Via Borghese right after Christmas over the mile 3/8 on this turf course at Gulfstream, and he connected to a victor with Dylan Davis up, winning by a neck from a tracking trip. He dug in and held on to the race. Very good run. Coming here back off the bench to Gulfstream, where this horse has run very well in the past. I think this horse could try find the trip to win. He ran 2 back in the Long Island Stakes at Aqueduct over the mile 3 furlongs on the inner, and he finished 7 by 3.5 lengths that day. And he just didn't show up that day. They went very slow to some of the fractions that day. Not slow. Some of the races going mile 3 furlongs at Aqueduct or in New York in general, but still quite slow. Where this horse just never had the turn of foot. It wasn't his day to win. But he ran in the way before that over the mile 3 furlongs in October. Off the bench, winning by a neck, closing it from nowhere into a very slow pace. This horse went away with it, a good run. Even before then, the Robert Dick Memorial couldn't catch Warlike on. She just really ran a little bit better. Made her North America debut on this turf course last year in the Orchid, where she had a very good third place finish behind McCulloch, where she checked a few times and was a little bit wide late, but she still got down the race course well. She likes a lightning fast turf course. It seems she could still a little bit close. She could come from a little bit behind, getting Davis up at 9-2. I think this horse could win. The 5 horse Beautiful Love for William Buick and Charlie Appy is your second likeliest winner, I think. Also, this horse, had a basically nearly stateside campaign last year, other than 2 races in Maidan, where she ran decently, but started off the season in mid-August in Lake Placid, where she ran an okay 6, where she needed a race that day, and she was also drifting. But came back to win the Jack Club Oaks at Aqueduct very impressively. Came back to run a decent third in the Weah, and then her fourth in the Breeze Cup Juvenile Phillies turf wasn't, or excuse me, the Breeze Cup Philly Mare turf wasn't bad at all. I think coming here today, coming to the mile and a half for the first time with William Buick up drawn very well. It wouldn't surprise me if this horse connects to a winner circle photo. I'll use her here also in the pick 5 or pick 3 that begins with this race. But to recount my selection for the 7 from Gulfstream now, it's the grade 3 La Prevoyante. Gonna go take the 4 horse La Mahana. Give kudos to the 5 horse Beautiful Love. 4-5-2-3 Super. 4-5 in the multi race. Let's get to the 8th event now from Gulfstream Park, which is Fred W. Hooper Stakes. It's going for a purse. That's a grade 3 event going for a purse of $165,000. Races for 4-year-olds and upwards. A field of 9 horses going 1,600 meters or a mile in the Fred Hooper, named after, and very rich in Florida horse racing. It's a shame that with the news that's coming out of Florida with the race in the last couple weeks, hopefully the future looks bright there. Gonna go with the number 7 horse here, Upstanding as a top selection. Gonna go 7-5-3-9 to the superfecta. 7-5-3-9 super top selection 7 horse Upstanding. This 4-year-old colt, excuse me, 4-year-old gelding. Mike Furlan here. Tom Fletcher trains. Luis Saez gets them out. First start as gelding came most recently on the 22nd of December at Gulfstream. The 1-turn mile in the main special weighed 43,000. It took this horse 5 starts to break the maiden, but first start gelding was no problem. Winning by 9 lengths on the fronting. He went away with it, driving away. That was a good run. He's facing winners and stakes quality horse for the first time. Shouldn't be a problem. Even his races in defeat, he was running these good runs. Coming here today, this horse could find a trip to the winner's circle back to back. He ran 2 back in the 90,000 main special at Aqueduct going 7th, 8th in November, and he finished second by 4.5 lengths that day, and he just never got out of the gate clearly. He moved a little bit late. I thought he wanted more ground, but I've seen worse races from him. And then prior to that at Aqueduct, a mile in the main special weight in early October, he finished second by 2.5 lengths. He was with them early on. He had the lead. He was drifting out. He just had a lot of antics that day. And then probably a race you could throw out. That was where he was 20 cents to the dollar favorite in the Wilson Mile at or the Wilson Mile Saratoga in the main special in August, where he finished 12 and a quarter lengths. He had a very, very wide trip, which is not ideal over that Wilson Mile. Refreshing here. First time stakes quality horses trained very well since the Geldon, since the last race. At 5-1, I think he could run a good race. The 5 horse Tema Rumba for Brian Lynch and Tyler Gaffleone, I think could win also. He ran most recently in the Harlan's Holiday, actually local prep race for the Pegasus about a month ago over the mile 16th, where he finished second by 1.25 lengths. Rocky Camp clawed him that day right before the wire, but he got down the race course well. I think he's a horse cutting back and trip. It should really suit him well. Ran in the British Cup Dirt Mile prior to that at Del Mar, where he finished 4th by 5 lengths, where he just couldn't get going late. And then his Akak, the winner had the jump on him at Churchill, but again, he got around the race course well. Even his Han Shin race wasn't bad at all at Churchill. He won this race last year from a very wide trip where he saw a good pace to close up into. I think they'll be flying up front. I think it could suit up for him at 2-1. Let's use him in the pick 6 that begins with this race. But to recount my selection now for the 8th from Gulfstream, it is to Fred W. Hooper. To take the 7 horse Upstanding, give kudos to the 5 horse Tema Rumba. 7-5-3-9 super. 7-5 in the multi race. Let's get to the 9th event now. Back to the turf course with race 9 from Gulfstream. It is the William L. Mcknight Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a purse of $215,000, race for 4-year-olds and upwards here. We have a field of 16 horses entered, but again, 12 could go. The distance of ground of 2,400 meters or a mile and a half here in the Mcknight Stakes. Race very rich in history in South Florida. Used to be always run at Calder in late December. And you always saw some good runnings of this race. It used to be one of my favorite races of the, if not my favorite race of the call their meeting. My top selection here, I'm going to go with the 10 horse Utah Beach. We're going to go 10, 1, 11, 12 in the superfecta. 10, 1, 11, 12 super. Top selection 10 horse Utah Beach. This 5-year-old gelding by English Channel. Nacho Correa's trains. Tyler Gaffleone gets the mount. They ran the horse right before, or in early December here at Gulfstream, 2 miles in the Alan Jerkins Memorial. And he finished second by a head that day. And he sat back early, had a wide trip, closed up into a very slow pace, and then he got caught. The winner just caught him at the wire. He got nipped there. What can you do? He ran his heart out for 2 miles. He's cutting back in trip, which is very, you don't say that a lot, cutting back from 2 miles to a mile and a half today. But I think he's going to be in a better spot to win here today. But he's a horse that seems like he could run for days and days. He ran two back in the Sycamore Keelan, a mile and a half on the 11th of October, and he finished third by 4 1/4 lengths that day. And he was with them early on. He just couldn't keep up late. But again, getting down the race course well, wasn't a bad race second off the bench. And they need to find him a race prior to that at Aqueduct. Mile 16th on the inner and Ops Lady Clamor. He finished fourth by 3 lengths that day, and he just kind of tracked. The winner had the jump on him. He desperately needed the race that day. And then the Louisville Stakes of Churchill, mile and eighth in mid-May, finishing fifth by 6 1/4 lengths. He had a very wide trip, but again, not a bad race in defeat. If you look at some of his races last season here, he won an option 35 going a mile and a half here in February quite nicely. Came back to run a Keelan in mid-April over the mile and a half in a lounge race where he won by 4 3/4 lengths, closing up from nowhere, basically circling the field that day. Back to a longer trip, training well locally. I'm going to give him a shot on the ticket, a massive shot here. I think the one horse here who is a limited liability could win also for Frankie Dettori and Shug. Was a winner two back in the Nashville Gold Cup over the 2 miles and 16th at Kentucky Downs, winning by 8.5 lengths on the front end. He really took off clear. Came back to run the Red Smith after that over the mile three at Aqueduct, where he finished second by 2 lengths. Interrogation just had the jump on him, but he got around the race course easily that day. Not a bad race in the feet. He's another horse. If you look, he was running in the longer race division over the summer. It wasn't doing bad at all. He was basically a lot of the time the bridesmaid to the Gray Wizard. We actually turned tables after that in the Nashville Gold Cup where he showed that 102 miler. Coming here to Goldstream for the first time, being forwardly paced, loves the longer trip. At 3 to 1, I'm going to use him on the ticket. I wish here in North America we would have more of those 2 mile races because it would just be so good. This couldn't begin for this division. This seems like the kind of race that's going to be that would begin that division, and then they could go to the Belmont Gold Cup, the Nashville Gold Cup if they bring it back this year. And you need some more races to fill up the calendar there. So maybe Aqueduct or Belmont and Aqueduct could card more of those 2 mile races as the season goes on or something like that. Maybe Churchill, but it'd be cool for more of these races. But to recap my selection now for the ninth from Gulfstream, it's the William L. Mcknight Stakes race. Like I said, very rich in history. I'm going to go with the 10 horse Utah Beach. Give kudos to the 1 horse limited liability. 10-1, 11-12 super, 10-1 in the multi-race. Let's get to the 10th race now from Gulfstream Park, the first Pegasus race of the afternoon. It is the Pegasus World Cup Billy Mayer Turf Invitational. It is a Grade 2 event going for a $500,000 purse race. Phillies Mayor's 4-year-old and upwards. We have a field of 14 horses entered, only 12 could go. 1,700 meters or mile 16th here in the Pegasus Philly Mare. I'm going to go with the 10 horse here, who is Sacred Wish. I'm gonna go 10-1-8-3 in the superfecta. 10-1-8-3 super. Top selection 10 horse Sacred Wish. 5-year-old mare by Not This Time. Georgie Weaver trains. John Velasquez gets the mount. They ran the horse most recently on the 1st of December at Del Mar, a mile in the Grade 1 matriarch, and it was a success for this horse getting that Grade 1 victor, winning by a neck that day from a tracking trick. She moved out, she quickened up nicely, and she got the job done. A very good gritty performance with a very good buyer. I think coming here to her 5-year-old campaign here today, off some very good runs as of recently. I think she can make it $500,000 here today to bring her to a millionaire today. But not a bad race. Since coming to the turf at midway through her 3-year-old campaign, she's really become a better horse and a lot better horse than she was on dirt. That came in the winter memories at Aqueduct in the fall of 23, where she won by 1 1/4 lengths. She was a little bit wide, but she flew home clear late. Ever since then, she's just becoming a better horse. She ran two back British Cup weekend in the Gold Cove at Del Mar, where she finished third by 2 lengths. The winner had the race on the front end locked up and sealed that day, but this horse, she was gaining some ground behind her. Not a bad race in defeat that day. And then the ladies' turf at Kentucky Downs over the mile. She finished second by 3 lengths that day. Walkathon again just had the jump on her, but she got around the race course well. Coming here today off some decent runs since coming to turf, training well. I'm going to give her a shot on the ticket. I do also think the one horse Raikea for Todd and Frankie Cohen also. She made her North America debut for the in the Gold Cove at Del Mar over the mile where Frankie rode her. When it won a quarter length, saying some good fraction, she went away with it. She likes the fast ground. She's refreshing back here today off some decent runs in the UK. Back to a mile trip, mile 16th, or on this inner turf course that plays towards these front end horses. I think this horse could get a piece of it. The pick four begins with this race. We're going to go too deep to start it off. But to recap my selection for the 10th now from Gulfstream Park, it's the Pegasus World Cup Filly Mare Turf. Going to take the 10 horse here. Sacred Wish. Give kudos to the one horse Rakea. 10-1-8-3 Super. 10-1 in the multi race to the 11th. The 11th race from Gulfstream, it is the Inside Information Stakes. It's going for a purse of $215,000 for this grade 3 event. Races for Philly Mares, 4-year-olds and upwards. So we have a field of 9 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs in the Inside Information. Top selection, I'm going to go with number 6 horse, Jody's Pride. We're going to go 6-9-8-7 in the superfecta. 6-9-8-7 super. Top selection, 6 horse, Jody's Pride. This 4-year-old Philly American Pharaoh. Jorge Abreu trains. Luis Saez gets the mount. They got a little crazy with this horse, I thought, last time out in the Pebbles at Aqueduct. A mile on the inner, the 8th of November. I didn't think that was the right call. She's proven she wants to go. I think she's proven that she wants to go back to a one-turn mile, the way she's been running. Going around 2 turns at Aqueduct on the turf just wasn't her liking. She finished 4th by 4 1/4 lengths, and she just never really got going. I think cutting back and trip to 7 or even a one-turn mile in the future is really going to be her strong point. She ran 2 back in the Ashland, a mile 16th at Keelan, where again, she finished 7 by 12 1/4 or 9.5 lengths that day. She was wide, and she just wasn't getting into it. But again, facing Lester Pine horse in the slot at Aqueduct in the Busher in early March last year, she won by 2 1/4 lengths. She had a good tracking trip. She quickened up nicely, and she went away with it. Very good strong run with an 80 buyer that day. And then she ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies in the fall of 23 at Santa Anita, where she finished a very good placement, just FYI, that day, finishing second by a neck, closing it from nowhere. Not a bad race. Even the matron prior to that over the 6 at Aqueduct, she won by 3 1/4 lengths, and you really took off clear. Even after not the best beginnings, I think cutting back and trip, she'll see a strong pace to close up into. I think she could find a trip here to win. I'm going to use her on the ticket. I think the 9 horse Emery could win also for Brad and Tyler Gaffleone. She ran most recently in the Raven run at Keelan over the 7 in the fall, where she won by 2 lengths. And from a tracking trip, she circled the field late. That was a very good run. She ran 2 back in the test at Saratoga over the 7 furlongs behind Ways and Means, who was an next star winner. This horse finished second by 2.5 lengths, where she just couldn't get into it late. But, she won the victory route at Aqueduct on July 4th quite impressively. Even the Leslie's a lady at Churchill of the 7 in June, winning by 3.5 lengths. She really put on a show. Her 3-year-old campaign was very good under the radar. Beginning the 4-year-old campaign here today, she is another very likely winner. We'll use her in this late pick 4. But to recap my selections now for the 11th from Gulfstream, it is the Inside Information. Gonna go take the 6 horse, Jody's Pride. Give kudos to the 9 horse Emery, 6-9-8-7 Super, 6-9 in the multi race. Let's get to the featured or co-featured 12th race from Gulfstream now, which is the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational. It's a grade 1 event going for $1 million purse, race for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field here of 14 horses entered. 13 and 14 are both AE, so 12 will go to the Gulfstream Park Turf Course, the distance of ground of 1,800 meters, or a mile and 1/8 in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. Out of both of or all 3 of the Pegasus races, this is probably my favorite. It's always an exciting one. I'm going to go with the number 5 horse here, Interrogation, as the top selection. I'm going to go 5-2-7-8 in the superfecta, 5-2-7-8 super, top selection 5 horse Interrogation. This 5-year-old horse by Quality Road, Shug McGahee trains, Frankie Dettori gets the mount. They ran the horse most recently on the 9th of October at Aqueduct. Mile 3 on the inner in the grade 2 Red Smith, and he won by 2 lengths that day. He saw a very slow pace that day, but he found the turn of foot to close up into it. He went away with it late. That was a very good run with a 101 buyer. He's proven he can run fast enough buyers. I think putting back 2 furlongs last to a mile and 1/8, being more into the race than he was last year, I think he could find a trip to win here today. He ran 2 back in the Kentucky Turf Cup over the mile and a half at Kentucky Downs, where he finished 4th by 4 lengths that day. He was very wide, and he just never got into it. Look at that run. I want to bet him in the Red Smith after that, because it just looked like he didn't want to get that trip. I think a mile and a quarter, would have been his better, strong point. He ran a massive race for Nation's Pride. He's running back this one today in the Arlington Million at Colonial. Over the mile and a quarter, he finished second by 1 1/4 lengths. He just missed late. He was moving up late. Not a bad race in the feet. And then prior to that, a very soft ground at Kentucky Downs or at Colonial and on the 8th Millions preview, winning by 6.5 lengths. Only two other rivals. He basically won in a trot. That was a very good run. Begin off his season last year, he ran this one last year where he finished fifth by 1.25 lengths, and from the rail, he just never really got going. It took him a little bit of time to figure out this horse again after a very good 3-year-old campaign. When they finally figured him out at Colonial Downs this past summer, he really ran these terrific races. Starting off the 5-year-old campaign, training well, pacing with Frankie up. I'm going to give him a shot on the ticket. I think the two horse here, Formidable Man for Umberto Rispoli. Mike McCarthy is another horse that can win also. This horse is facing older horses for the first time, but his races against restricted horses, against 3-year-old horses last year weren't bad at all. He had finished off the season with a very good, strong victor in the Hollywood Derby at 5.5 to 1, which was easy money. He really took off clear. Prior to the Del Mar Derby, he won by half length going away with it and closed it from nowhere in the ocean side where he just didn't have the best beginnings and was very, very wide late. But he's also proven he can run decent races coming from the other coast. He in the American Turf at Churchill Derby weekend, where he had a very good place where he got caught at the wire, but he outran his 24 to 1 odds that day. Not a bad race in the feet. Since coming to the green stuff, he's really been improving a lot. As the season went on, he's done everything right. Might have to get a little bit faster on the buyer side, but I think you'll see him running late. Let's use him on the ticket. Even the 7 Horse Nation's Pride for William Buke and Godolphin. He won 2 back in the Arlington Million where he won quite nicely. Came back to run the Bahrain Trophy where he just never really got going. I thought you saw a tired horse, a little bit time between races. He's proven he can run good races on this side of the pond. At 2 to 1, I'll give him a shot on the ticket in this very wide open co-feature. But you can go a few ways in this race. But to recount my selection for the 12 from Gulfstream, it is the Pegasus World Cup Turf. Gonna go take the 5 horse interrogation. Give kudos to the 2 horse Formidable Man and the 7 horse Nation's Pride. 5278 Super, 527 in the multi race. Let's get to the featured 13th race now from Gulfstream Park, which is the Pegasus World Cup. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $3 million purse race for 3-year-olds and upwards here. We have a dozen horses entered to go stroll around the Gulfstream Park main track, which is 1,800 meters in circumference, or a mile and a eighth here in the Pegasus. Going to go with the number 11 horse Locked as top selection. We're going to go 11-2-4-6 in the superfecta. 11-2-4-6 Super, top selection, 11 horse Locked. This 4-year colt by Gunrunner, top Fletcher trains. John Velazquez gets the mount. Ran the horse most recently in the Scar Mile at Aqueduct, mile on the 7th of December. Very good this year. Should have been a Grade 1. And he won by 1.25 lengths. He had a bit of a wide trip that day, but he saw a strong pace to close up into, and he did just that. He went away with it. Coming here around 2 turns for the first time since his 3-year-old campaign. He's going to need some luck. It's very hard to win from this poster going a mile and eighth at Gulfstream, but I think he can find some good trip and momentum to get the job done. Out of all since 2005, in the last 20 years since Gulfstream Park was renovated to make this track a mile and eighth, only 3 or 4 horses have won from out there. Big Brown was one of them. Forte won from out there. A couple mains won out from out there also. But Tom Pletcher at least trained a horse breaking from an outside post draw to win going a mile and eighth at Gulfstream. That was Forte quite a few seasons ago. I think Gunrunner won from this race from post like 10 a few years ago also, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back now to the replay for the charts, but I think this horse could find the trip to win. This horse ran his first race off the 11-month bench at Aqueduct, 7 furlongs and off 62, and he showed that I was there that day, winning by 7.5 lengths from a tracking trip. They were seeing some good fractions, and he just kept going. 108 and 4 3/4, 121 flat for the 7/8. He was flying 97 buyer off the 11-month bench. That was a serious performance, a good run. And then he just ran a clunker in the Breeders' Cup Juveniles, a 2-year-old at Santanito over the mile 16th. He finished third by 6 3/4 lengths. He couldn't catch Fierceness. He was wide, and he just never really got into it. But he ran a terrific race in the Breeders' Futurity. He won over the Wilson Mile quite nicely as a 2-year-old. Even in his race behind Just Steel and BU in his debut in the summer of 23 at Saratoga, he ran his heart out, training well since coming to this race. He's going to need some luck with the post draw, but I think he could do it. I'm going to use him on the ticket. I think the 2 horse Saudi Crown for Brad Cox and Florian could win also. The big thing with this horse is he doesn't win when he doesn't get to the front end. If he doesn't get to the front end, he's not winning. If he gets to the front end, he might not be stopped. He got to the front end last time in the Tenacious at Fairgrounds, where he went away with it, won by 2 lengths. He was driving away the victor. Came back prior to that in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile at Del Mar. over the mile, he didn't get to the front end, and it cost him. He finished 13th by 58 lengths, and he just completely walked under the line. But the Cowboy Jones at Ellis over the one-turn mile, winning by 1 3/4 lengths. Again, he got the lead and he took off clear. If he gets if he gets the to the front end from where he's drawn, which should be easy, he might not be stopped. He's run races definitely as a 3-year-old that have been fast enough to win here. His last race was definitely fast enough to win here. I'm going to give him a shot on the ticket. I also think the 4 horse White Barrio Cohen also his most recent races since coming back to the Joseph Barnes haven't been bad at all. A very good 100 buyer off the bench at Gulfstream going 7 here in November. Came back in a very good place in the Mr. Prospector. He gets a very good post right here today. Another horse, watch out for him late. And even the 6 horse Stronghold, he's been placing his most recent races in the Malibu, Pennsylvania Derby, and Indiana Derby, running some good races off the bench. He's a horse. He's gonna need some luck to win here today, but his last race was definitely fast enough to win. If he doesn't win, he's a horse definitely using your supers and tries here. But with that being said, it's a very good race here for the multi-race wagers. So I think you go a few places here. But to recap my selections now for the 13th. From Gulfstream, it's Pegasus World Cup. We're going to take the 11 horse locked as top selection. We're going to go 11 2 4 6 super, 11 2 4 6 in the pick 4. Might do some other tickets here, 11 2 and on some tickets, and then we might do a single ticket with just lock there. But a very, very good race here. With that being said, good luck to all, and please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kid 5. Good luck, everybody.